Hearthstone has been announcing nerf reverts to a lot of old cards, and there's one card in particular that I believe is not necessarily going to break the meta, but is definitely going to be involved in at least one tier 1 deck in the warrior class. Before I get into what card I believe will break the warrior class, if you like this kind of content, feel free to like this video and to subscribe to the YouTube channel in order to be updated on all of our daily uploads. If you've been keeping up with the updates to old cards such as Bluegill Warrior and Stone-Tusk Boar, you're probably familiar that Blizzard is not really happy with the charge mechanic at the moment. But there is one card in particular that is going to probably change the way that you see charge for the next expansion. Alec Dawson has been taking the initiative to inform us about old cards that will be having new changes. And one of the cards that I really believe is going to shape Hearthstone the most is the new changes to Charge. Charge is now a 3 mana, give your friendly minion +2 attack and charge. So now suddenly, old decks like Worgen UltiK are very, very viable if the meta is able to make this kind of stuff possible. But the biggest thing is that these combos are actually doable now. Charge Combo Warrior, where you just draw your deck as soon as possible, is something that we could very well see again. And speaking of deck lists, Monsanto has already taken the initiative of making a deck that he believes would be very viable on day 1. But again, we haven't had any of the new cards released, so this could very easily change. But here's the big thing that I want to pressure here, or the big thing that I want you guys to remember. Charge Warrior, back in the day, was like one of the best decks ever in Hearthstone. Like, literally ever. It literally was a deck that you could draw so quickly. You would always have life because you're a warrior and you're always getting life. And then suddenly, you just play your combo and your opponent has almost no ways of dealing with it unless you were a mage that happened to run like Ice Block, or you were a warrior that could somehow gain a lot of life. But that's not the issue here. The issue here is now Warrior not only has Raging Worgen, but they also have Crab Rider and Shield of Honor. So suddenly making a really large, thick minion that can just hit face immediately, it doesn't seem like that bad of a strategy, at least not in Wild and definitely not in Standard. Wild is still going to have the Risky Skipper Armorsmith package along with like other cards like Acolyte of Pain in the deck. Like pretty much the modern ETC warrior that people have been playing this past expansion is probably going to be the shell of this deck, just because it has lots of ways of drawing, lots of ways of gaining life, and that's all you really care about until you reach that combo turn. Like you can literally hear it in my voice. I really have a lot of hope for this deck because it was literally one of the best decks that has ever graced Hearthstone's history, and now we have the chance to not only play it again like we used to back in the classic format, but this new changed format for the Year of the Griffin, Charge being 3 mana, you guys are going to have to watch out for it because it could really warp the meta, I believe, in some way or another. Outside the applications of a combo warrior, there are some other people that are debating that maybe this can go in an aggro deck as like another finisher to where you can just use charge on the minion in order to get over that last bit of burst that you need. And that is also pretty viable, but I don't think the card is going to see that much play like that unless maybe you have like a 1 tech decision in that deck just to kind of give yourself a little bit of extra wiggle room. But the biggest thing about that kind of strategy is that you're gonna win more likely with your deck playing an aggro, playing in a very aggressive strategy versus just relying on charge to win the game. And then suddenly you have one card that just doesn't synergize as great. It's also 3 mana, so for an aggro deck, teching in one card like that may be a little bit too much. At least in Wild, I don't think that can happen. But Standard, it has a lot more ways of being utilized that way. Like case in point, Rush Warrior. Rush Warrior that plays really thick weapons with Krasnov and Diving Instructor and the Demon that gives you a 3/2 weapon. That could actually see some play in this kind of deck because that deck did not have any other ways of hitting face outside of direct weapon damage. So I really believe that maybe that could happen with Charge, but I'm a lot more hopeful on the combo variant than any other variant of the deck. The last way that I could see this card being used is probably the least powerful, but you could always put this in a Control Warrior or some kind of like, you know, grinder warrior deck that every now and again when you have the chance of killing your opponent, or maybe you have like a control style with just like one combo in mind, like not necessarily going all in for the OTK, but something very similar to like Silas OTK warrior where you have multiple different win cons. So who knows, maybe there's a situation to where like there's a 7-drop or a 6-drop that you can slap charge onto, and then it just has a lot of scaling, because I think there's actually a Wind Fury minion for that mana cost that's still available in the core set. But regardless, 6 mana plus 3 mana to not even kill your opponent. You're just a lot better off going all in on the combo. But I don't think we can rule it out yet because we still don't know what the new cards coming from the expansion are. Last and certainly not least is the meme application of this card. Since Charge was reverted to essentially give minions Rush instead of Charge, there have been several more cards that have been released not only in the Warrior class, but definitely in the Neutral class. So there's definitely some combos and some memes out there that'll be able to use this card to its fullest, or at least to its fullest meme application. But here's one combo that I want to turn you guys on to. Because now that Grim Patron Warrior is still not a thing with these changes, this is about the closest that you can get to reliving this archetype, and it's pretty goofy. Like this screenshot is a little all over the place since it's not the best edited. But in short, what you're trying to do is you're trying to have a Emperor set up into the minion that whenever it takes damage, it summons a copy of itself. The name is up there, but I can't remember it right now for this recording. But regardless, there is an not easy way, but there is a way. There is a way to OTK with this card now because Charge is now going to make it to where every single time you damage this minion, that copy also has Charge. So get your meme hats on because there's a lot of different ways that we're going to be able to OTK with this card, not only in a meta way, but in a hilarious way that I'm definitely going to do a lot. And that is my take on Charge. Like I said earlier, it was one of the best cards that we've ever seen in Hearthstone because it enabled one of the most broken archetypes ever. So Raging Worgen and Crab Rider are cards that you guys are going to have to worry about in the Warrior class in case Charge does become a little problematic. I don't know if they're going to have to nerf this card. I think it's very, very, it's way too soon in order to make that assumption because we don't know how aggressive everything is going to be. We don't know how good control is going to be. So until we see all the cards, I don't believe that we should be rallying for any kind of like changes to the reverts because the whole point of these reverts is to give old cards that almost never saw play, and let's admit it, Charge never saw play in its old form. It's finally giving those cards a chance to see the light again. And that is my take on the new changes to Charge. If you guys like this kind of content, then feel free to like this video and to subscribe to the YouTube channel for even more content just like this, as well as other deck spotlights. I hope you guys are ready to storm the face because face is the place. And we'll see you for the next video.